Hello boys and girls, and welcome to another WOLCEN video in which I show the build I'm currently using for leveling up, okay? Because lots of people ask me, hey, what are you using in order to level up? What is your build? Do you have any cool new build guides? No, I don't. I'm still experimenting and leveling, but so far I do pretty well because I'm level 68 and I can currently open 94. This is not where it stops. This is just what my spare time was allowing me to go for. So, okay, let's check out the stuff I did, and we start with the attributes. And my attributes are a mess. Okay, I spent 80% into toughness because I hate dying, and I thought I can get a little bit more tanky. And the rest of the points I distributed equally among the other three, which of course is stupid, but that's what I did. And the problem is that look at the reset costs. It's 214,000 gold. It's like almost a quarter million. That's way more I currently own. And since I need to build the town and pay for all these kind of things which are super expensive and yada yada yada, you name it, I need tons of gold. Tough luck, I cannot reset my attribute points 5 times a day in order to experiment. It's not possible. So spend your points wisely. I did mainly the toughness thing in order to be more tanky. Okay. Right, let's go on and check the active skills. I use a rage spender because I don't want to play with a two-handed staff to build up rage at some point, and then I have to let's say weave in some standard attacks in order to get my willpower back. I hate that. I just want to spend willpower and then rage and willpower and rage. So a dagger and a catalyst is the way to go for me. And since bleeding edge sucks, even though I used it for quite a while, I went with blade storm, converted it to fire, and enlarged the radius or the area of effect, and I dealt with this ailment enhancements here. And this shockwave, I really like it and how the skill looks. That's really a very cool build. So that's what I did with the blade storm, and if you want to see it, look at that. It's spinning and then you have this shockwave at the end. I really like that skill. Okay, so that's my rage spender. Then I have the tier of ethereal, and I also converted it to fire damage. There's not much going on. It's just both cooldown nodes, and the effect radius is bigger, and that we have this damage over time, ticking rain. Classic. There's nothing else to say. Of course, you can experiment with other nodes, but that's what I did. Okay. And normally I just love this spell. It's one of my favorites. And I configured it in this way. Unfortunately, there's no fire, and normally this would be cool, but there isn't. But the stasis is nice to have as well. Sorry. You will see in the passive notes later on. Nothing special going here. I added the damage. I want to have 2 vortexes. Enemies need to get sucked in and they will receive damage when enemies get sucked in. The skill duration and the effect is bigger. So as you can see, I have 2 anomalies. They are pulsing and sucking in enemies and they get damaged. It's an absolute beast of a spell in my opinion, and that's why I want to have it, even though my whole build doesn't make any sense because there are no synergies whatsoever. But that's what I did. Then Mark of Impurity. I was experimenting with that, and I'm under the impression that it's worth keeping so far. There's no trial belt for me, which is good, but I want to have it in order to see if it's still broken and how it performs. But yeah, so I use the Mark of Impurity in a way so that it will spread automatically, and I have the cooldown reduced, and there's a little explosion when they die, and under 10% of health they can just die instantly. This is similar to the EOS tree where you have this 15% threshold. Okay, so Mark of Impurity is nice to have, and that's why I use a dagger and not a sword in order to use this skill. If you don't want to use Mark of Impurity and use something else, you can do that. Then you don't need a dagger. You can go for a sword or an axe whatsoever. But that's what I did. Then I went with Plague Burst. I really like that. I also converted it to fire. Pretty nice. And the big thing here is that we have this cloud when enemies die, so it creates a large cloud on the ground, so enemies tick in there. It's pretty nice. Then I went for this one so that I can, yeah, create health globes once in a while. I do not know if it's worth it, but I just have it there. Maybe this point is negotiable. You can get something else instead. But since I feel that my survivability lacks a bit in 94, 5 plus, I still experiment with it if it's worth it, okay? Good. Then Infinity Blades, that's my willpower spender because using those skills on cooldown is not enough to deplenish all the willpower. So I use Infinity Blades and this skill looks awesome. I still go with the standard damage type. I did not convert it to anything else. If there would be fire, I would totally love to make a complete fire build, but it's not the case. And these are the nodes I took for Infinity Blades. Just the 2 willpower nodes are essential in my opinion to get more willpower in order to use more Infinity Blades. Then I just bumped up the weapon damage. Again, another not weapon damage, skill damage. We have more skill damage, and then we have this debuff, which should affect the spell damage I deal. I have no clue how much it is. I can't measure it. I just took it. Okay. So these are the active skills I'm using. And the build is really easy to play. It's just one button, but we'll come to the gameplay in a second. Let's check out the passives. And again, boys and girls, this is not a finished build. This is just my experiment while leveling, and I share this because you asked for it. So I went here with a scholar tree and I just grabbed the 150 maximum willpower and rage, and I took this globe pickup radius because I was trying to build this potion bomber mechanic I have posted quite a while ago, but unfortunately it's not gonna work. But I still grabbed this node and I went to my favorite Kabbalist tree and the Immortal Offering. It's, even though it was changed massively, I think it's still worth taking it. So I took it. Then the power of the first man. And as you can see, I also grabbed the Grievous Afflictions. That's also very cool for the ailment stacks. That's all stuff. I don't need to explain what this does. You know that. And then I have a new tree I discovered, and this is the Oracle of the Trinity. I wasn't using Oracle of the Trinity before the patch, but now I want to experiment with it. And I took all 3 major nodes here. This one for the, let's say, explosion when I have my willpower under a certain threshold. And it's, I think, 30% weapon damage ideal. That's kind of nice. Then this does my elemental skills. They can create other things like a meteor, a frost lance, or chain lightning, which is pretty cool. And I like this one as well, so that I get a buff when I deal fire damage or frost damage. You can read what is happening when you deal these kind of elements. It's nice experimenting with. I still like it, or I like it. And then I went to the Child of Fury because I tried to make a fire build, a pure fire build, but I re-rolled then or reskilled then because it's not worth it. But I think those 2 nodes are pretty nice to have. I was thinking about grabbing all the % fire damage nodes and convert everything to fire to have a fire theme going on. But it doesn't really work out because the skills I like Anomaly and the Infinity Blades, they are not convertible to fire, and that's why I only took those 2. And for damage mitigation, I went with the Time Weaver Dire Juncture. That's an all-time favorite. I really like that. And I experimented with those 2 nodes because I never really used them, so that I get this buff, that I get more spell casting speed, and spell casting speed affects my Infinity Blade animation, so that's why I have it there. And my plan is to go all the way here. You can see I was preparing that route in order to grab my Siege Breaker with the elevated gain in order to bump my resistances based on my heavy armors, okay? Because I'm under the impression that the resistances will help me with the survivability a lot later on. And I did not go for the soldier, the wild card for the 30% critical chance score, and I did not go for the assassin. So it's a critless build, so to say. Hey, but I'm still level 68. There is room for improvement, and I really do not know which way to go after grabbing this one. Let's see. Okay. For the items, pretty straightforward. I have a heavy helmet and a heavy chest. Stats on them are not that great. I mean, everything which improves your crit chance, spell damage, the elemental damage is nice to have. Cooldown reduction is nice to have. I mean, you name it. The rest is bruiser to have a little bit of resistances and health. So this is all bruiser stuff. As you can see, some things I just found. For the rings, I just went for the steel rings because of the critical damage. Since this is not a crit build, this is negotiable, but maybe I will add the crit nodes later on when I have more skill points. That's maybe an old habit to go for the steel rings, but that's what I did. And of course, the transfer time gems are socketed into the rings as well as on the catalyst. And I have a catalyst with only minus 50% transfer time speed. That's quite okay. And you can see I have critical damage, burn ailment damage, and elemental ailment chance score. So this is my elemental theme going on here, pretty nice. The only thing here is a rogue pants because I found that minus 63 force shield on this item is worth taking in favor of the plus 17% health regeneration rate. So that's why I have the only rogue pants here. The rest is bruiser. And for my weapon, I have just a standard dagger with not even 3 offensive one sockets because re-rolling is again expensive and I don't have the gold for it yet. Okay. So yeah, that's the build and these are my items. And currently I can use 94 and I think that's not the end of it. And if I can push my survivability, I think this build is able to go for, I don't know, 100 and something. And it's really just one button I press and then that's it. It's not the fastest build because I did not take a teleport. I do not know why. I'm not a big fan of the teleport anymore because they changed some things and I don't really like it. And it doesn't really fit into the build. And I'm not in a big rush. I mean, yes, completing let's say expeditions faster is nice, but I was going for the damage instead of the speed. That's absolutely fine. And as you can see, the trash mobs, of course, they are absolutely yeah, worthless pieces of things. It's super easy to clear, but the big question is, how does this build deal with the bosses or even champions here? And I need to say pretty well. They are dropping really fast, in my opinion, and the survivability is the only drawback of this build so far, but you can see I have no problems whatsoever. There are just a few bosses which could one-shot you, like this war beast. It's pretty nasty, or sometimes this huge exoskeleton is annoying. Other than that, you have absolutely no problems. You are flying through the levels. Look, everything is dying and it's so super easy to play. That's what I like. You just press one button and this thing spins and swirls and blah, 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 blah. Super, super easy, okay? So that's for the build, guys. If you're interested how this build is, yeah, competing against the boss, then stay with me because I'm running towards him. Otherwise, yeah, have a good night and I see you in the next video. For all the guys who want to stay, please be my guest to see me dying when I try to kill the boss. Anyhow. And by the way, if you have a far better build, then please let me know. I'm interested to hear what you guys came up with. Maybe you want to try out this particular build. I only can recommend it. It's not the best in the world, but it works. And that's the main thing for me. Look. I also experimented with a force shield build, but I wasn't really, let's say, happy with the result. So I patched it out and went for my bruiser and heavy items. Come on, why is the boss so far away? And do you like the expansion so far? I must say I'm a bit underwhelmed. But yeah, I hope that they will improve the situation by killing all the bugs, which are super annoying. In any event, here is the boss. And let's see what I can do with it. I just see I'm frozen myself now. That's bad. So sad. Don't run away. It's of course not very nice that he is escaping all of my clouds, but now he's dropping. Look, he's dropping pretty okay, and I just do nothing, just pressing this button. Drinking a health potion once in a while, because as you can see now, I'm dropping a bit. And it's really annoying that the health potions don't trigger. You press the button, but it does not get recognized at all. You have to push once more, but boom, that's it. I killed it. Super easy, super fun. Okay, so now this is the end. I hope it was okay for you, and I see you in the next video. Good night.